Hi everyone. Today we're going to be doing a very quick summary of solving linear equations. And the first thing I want to mention, and probably the most important thing, is that the method we're going to be using today is the balance method, and it revolves around balance. And it revolves around an understanding of the equal sign. And so the equal sign tells us that two things are the same. Um, and I think we often neglect that fact and we forget what that means. So what it means in this example over here is that 4a and 36 are the same thing, or they're telling us the same information. So that means that 4 times something needs to give me 36. Now we can probably look at this and just answer it, but when we get to more difficult questions like this one over here, we're going to need a strategy that works in every question. Okay, and the idea is here that if we want to get this a by itself, because that's what we're doing, we're solving linear equations. So down here, we want this a to be by itself. If we do that, we need to move this 4. Okay, and so we also actually need to realize what's happening between this 4 and a. And when you see a number and a letter next to each other with nothing in between, hopefully you know that that means times. So it's 4 times a at the moment. We want to move this 4 to the other side to leave the a by itself. And when we do that, the times becomes a divide. Okay, so we will have the a by itself, and then we've moved this 4 to the other side, and like I said, it became a divide, so it's 36 divided by 4. All right, so just quickly summarizing that, it was 4 times a on the left, 4 times a on the left, and we moved it to the right, it became 36 divided by 4, which is 9. And that makes sense because 4 times 9 is 36, so that worked. And that's the one way you can go back and check. You can actually put the value that you got back into the question, and if you get the same answer, it obviously worked out. That's the correct answer. This next example is a two-step equation, and so you can see here now we don't just have one number on the same side as the letter, we've actually got 2. So now it's 3 times b plus 5 equals 14. And so we need to decide which one do we move first. Do we move this 3 or do we move this 5? Both need to be moved to the other side if we're going to have the b by itself. And so the correct answer is the thing that's sort of furthest away from the letter. So you can see here the 3 is basically glued to the b because there's nothing between them. And this 5 is quite separate. So we're actually going to move this 5 from this side to that side by subtracting because it was a plus on that side. So I'm going to subtract 5. That basically gets rid of it on that side. All right, but then if you think about balance, it's going to be out of balance. All right, because I've removed 5 from this side of the equation, which is going to make it a little bit lighter. So in order to keep this level, keep this balance, I'm also going to subtract 5 on that side of the equal sign. And so we can rewrite our equation. We didn't change the 3b, so that's still there. The equal sign's still there, and 14 take 5 is 9. And then from here, it's basically like our first question. So then we are going to divide it by 3 on this side. And whatever we do to one side, we also do to the other. So b is now going to be left by itself. Let's just clean this up. The b is going to be left by itself. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And that's our answer. Okay, next question. Just get rid of this. We might speed through this one a little bit. All right, so we've got 3 parts to this equation that we need to move over in order to get c by itself. So we need to move the 6, the 4, and the 2, all right, because it's 6c plus 4 divided by 2. And in reading that out, you notice that I said the divide 2 last. So that's the first thing we're going to start with by moving across. So this is divide 2. To move something from one side of the equation to the other, we do the opposite. So we're going to multiply by 2 on this side. We're also going to multiply by 2 on this side to keep that balance. Okay, the 6c plus 4 I didn't change. And remember that this is now gone because we've multiplied by 2, and 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, very similar to this previous question that we were answering. So now we're going to subtract 4 on both sides. So now I'm left with 6c equals 12. And then we're back to the first question that we answered, where we divide both sides by 6, divide by 6. So c equals 2. And finally, last question. This one's a little bit challenging because now we've got 2 letters. So we need to remove one of those letters somehow, and the process is still the same. What I like to do is I look for the smallest coefficient. So here you've got a 6d, and here you've got a 4d. So I'm going to take this smallest coefficient of 4d, and I'm going to move it to the other side of the equation. How do we do that? Well, it's currently a positive 4d. If I want to move the whole thing, I would have to subtract. So it's going to be subtract 4d on this side of the equation, which is going to cancel that out. and then I'm going to subtract 4d on this side of the equation, and 6d take 4d, that would be 2d. I didn't change the 7, so I'm going to keep that take 7, and I didn't change that 3, so I'm going to keep that 3. Now from here, it's basically the same as this question. So we want to move this negative 7. This negative 7 here, we want to move that to the other side. So that becomes plus 7 on this side. Negative 7 plus 7 is 0, so that's gone, and that's what we wanted. We're sort of pushing it to the other side. We're going to plus 7 on this side. 2d equals 3 plus 7, which is 10. And then we divide by 2 because it's times. Divide by 2. Whatever we do to one side, we also do to the other. And finally, d equals 2. So this has sort of been a quick summary of how to answer some questions in solving linear equations, which is a really important skill. So feel free to watch this video a few times till you get the hang of it. Thanks for listening.